All right, we are live, episode 69 with the incredible John Blease, all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, for being so supportive of the last, nearly 2 years. This is absolutely incredible. I've been chatting with Mr. John Blease for, I don't know, maybe the past 6-7 months, trying to organize our schedules and have him on the program here. And as I was just saying off camera with him, that the more I delved into his resume, the more I was looking at it and going, holy smokes. Wow. I had no idea. You see the headlines and the major artists that they play with, but you don't really see the full picture until you delve a little deeper. So Scottish drummer Mr. John Blease has created a fantastic career of playing drums live, in the studio, on television, with some amazing and most popular and even iconic artists of the day, such as Robert Plant, Seal, Goldie, Jamie Cullum, Goldfrapp, Ghost Poet, Michael Bolton, Ellie Goulding, but to name a few. So please welcome everybody. Very honored to have John Blease on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil, for your kind introduction.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, really
and it's
good.
Nighttime in Glasgow, is it?
I am spending my Friday night with you, having a episode 69.
Oh, that's that's great to hear.
But yeah, I mean, it's 7 o'clock here, so I've had an early tea, which I'm a big fan of. Early dinner.
Okay.
And,
okay.
You know, it's a tough time, this, isn't it? 7 o'clock. Do I eat before doing this? Eat after? Don't know how long it's going to be.
Oh, that's great.
So I've opted for the early dinner, and now I can relax and just talk to you.
And we can talk drums about your extensive and broad career. Man, this has been unbelievable. Before we go back into the very beginnings of your drumming and musical ventures, what have you been doing the last couple of years of the pandemic?
Oh, good question. Yeah, it's changed life quite a bit, hasn't it, for everybody? Well, like everybody, staying at home for quite a lot of the time, and not doing the usual kind of putting the drums in the car and gigging around, you know. So yeah, and to be honest, I mean, this comes from a place of privilege, but it was good for me to kind of stop because it had been pretty full on for quite a while, and I'd never really stopped. So it was quite nice to just be in the one place, even though under such terrible circumstances. So yeah, I've just been mainly at home and trying to navigate through it as best as I can, like anybody else.
Yeah. Is there any live work happening for you now?
Yeah, I mean, yes, in answer to your question. I mean,
that's good.
It's starting to come in, and you know, I have done stuff over the last 2 years. You know, not much, but I've been lucky that you know, well, I've been doing a lot of recording, you know, from home and at my studio, and but I also had a few gigs, you know, it opened up a little while back, so I managed to get out and do a tour and a few gigs, and yeah, over the last couple of years, I've been lucky to kind of get abroad and do some things like in Russia and
wow.
You know, so I still have managed to get on a plane at points to go and do what I do. I feel very lucky. Yeah.
Wow. Who are you playing in Russia with?
With Seal, and yeah, and we just did a gig in the Maldives actually to make everyone.
Oh, that's a terrible place. It looks so awful in the adverts. I don't know how you stood that.
It was dreadful. It was a long way from Glasgow, but you know, the weather was similar. But no, it was cracking. I feel very lucky, and so managed to get there and a few other places over the last couple of years. You know,
yeah, that's great. How busy are you in the studio there?
Well, like everything, it's busy times and not so busy times. But December was very busy, doing lots of stuff here. You know, I've had a studio for like over 10 years. You know, in London when I lived in London. So I've done this kind of recording yourself thing for quite a while. I just haven't banged on about it because I'm terrible at self-promotion. And actually, the Gretsch guys are the guys that got me into kind of maybe putting myself on the internet a little bit. And but yeah, it's December was incredibly busy in this bedroom of mine that is my current studio, and doing a lot of different stuff. It was great. Really enjoyed it, and I'm still doing some of that now. I'm doing a TV show for Amazon that's coming out later this year called Terminal List.
Okay.
So look out for that on your box, and that'll have my drums and percussion all over it. It's really fun. So that's involved a lot of recording. There's a lot of cues to do. So I just fire it up and try and make music. It's a different way of making music, isn't it?
Right, especially trying to get some feedback from whoever is making the decisions, whether they like what you did or adding adjustments. How does that work for you? Was it ever real time? Were you FaceTime with people, or do you get an email saying, you know, with instructions, or nothing?
I mean, it depends on the person, doesn't it? I mean, this Terminal List thing.
I'll write that down.
You know, Ruth, who's composing it all, she's very open. You know, she just lets. She's actually like, normally when you do film stuff and all that, it's written out and you need to play. You know, someone's got a very clear idea of what they do, but Ruth's just sending me the stuff and actually just describing what's going on in the scene. You know.
Okay.
And what kind of emotion she wants from it. You know, so. That's been really refreshing to do it like that, and even all the kind of weird odd time bars, and she just doesn't tell me anything. So it's up to me how much I want to go in, and so it's what do they say? Carte blanche. You know, it's a blank canvas, literally a blank canvas. You know, if you think of the computer screen as a blank canvas, and that's doing all drums and percussion for her. So I mean, that and. Been recording for a band called Jadu Heart that are like I played on their second album. They're doing a third one now, so that's like more of an indie thing. And then did some stuff for a producer. But yeah, I've got it all kind of wired in here to just go. So but I've been doing it a long time, so it's something I've always done in the background, you know.
Mm-hmm. Smart. You had a leg up on the rest of us who were trying
I don't know.
Desperately to get studio stuff up and together.
Right.
Always wanted to, had the time. Now I knew I was going to be home, so it was like, okay, interface, and how does this all work together? So that's very smart of you and fortunate. It sounds like you were interested in that, you know, to begin with anyways.
Basically, I love drums and I love music, obviously, and you know, just creating things, you know, is just what I like doing. So, you know, this kind of stuff, recording, and it's great. I love it.
Okay, we could spend, you know, a long time just talking about that stuff too. And if anyone has any questions, please, you want to ask John something, please write it in here. We actually have our good friend all the way from Puerto Rico saying, give John a Gretsch mug ASAP. Stay safe.
I wouldn't mind a Gretsch mug, actually. I could do with one of them. I
think they have those at Gretsch Gear. I think now I bought this probably 20 years ago. I don't even know where. It might have been eBay. At least 20 years ago. I've had this that long.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm letting the side down here with this.
Well, it looks lovely. It looks warmer than nice and cozy. Oh.
Yeah,
all right.
Stay warm.
So let's go back to the beginning. So how old were you when you started playing? Was it music and drums first? Was it just drums? How did this all start for you?
Well, I started off in violin, actually. but I absolutely hated that. Growing up in Scotland, most people got given a violin to start, playing tunes and stuff. And but I didn't like that. I mean, I hated that. But then what happened for me was at the end of like primary school, so it's like small school into the big school. The end of primary school, going into secondary, just before the summer, there was a choir, and the teacher handed me the tambourine and said, "Go on, play the tambourine." So then that was I was telling someone about this the other day, and I was playing the tambourine with the choir, and I felt that for the first time, everyone coming together off of that time, that rhythm, and I could play in time, and I was that feeling is still I can still feel it, and that's the feeling that I try and aspire to when I play. That's why I'm here. So that moment changed my life. That's when I just got hooked after playing the tambourine in the choir. And then over that summer, I was just watching Top of the Pops, which was like a top 40 show, all the music of the day. And I just looked at the drummers on the television, and I saw they're crossing this hand over like that. And I kind of set up some boxes, and I taught myself how to kind of play it. And then when I got up to the big school, I was hassling the music teacher for lessons every day, and for drum lessons. And it took like 9 months for him to have a slot. And then I got my slot, and then the guy was like, "Okay, you cross your hands over." And I'd already kind of learned how to do that, and then I kind of progressed quite quickly, and basically since then it's just been a thing I do every day of my life, But it was that moment at the school playing the choir that set me on the path to being a drummer. I just got obsessed.
Yeah, it's an incredible feeling, when people are playing along to the time that you're creating. It's like, wow, the shivers go up and down your spine.
Yeah, I mean,
and great feeling.
if you're doing it all the time, you can forget that.
Yeah.
But it's such an amazing thing. And for us to not have had live music for this last couple of years, to feel it starting to come back, and like when I've gone and played the gigs that I've been doing, I appreciate it so much,
Yeah.
And I think this is us. We're all going to be getting back, and music's just such an amazing thing. So we have to remember that.
Right. So did you do formal instruction at school with the teacher there?
Yes.
And what did you learn?
Well, obviously at the beginning, just kind of simple, work my way through that with Mr. King, Graham King, who was the local drum instructor where I grew up. And then I started, the school had like some bands that I was playing in that were great, and then I also then I just started getting lessons off of people, I actually went to London for a lesson with a guy called Brian Green, who was recommended, and then he turned me on to a massive influence on me. I went to Manchester then for lessons with a chap called Dave Hassel.
Oh yeah.
Who is probably one of the reasons why I'm here now. Really, he taught me a lot about music and drums as well, but probably mainly more music, and how to play it as a drummer. But yeah, I mean, Dave was great, and so yeah. In answer to your question, yes, I had a lot of formal tuition.
I studied with Jim Blackley, and Dave Hassel studied with Jim.
Yeah, well, it was always on my list of things to do to get over to study with Jim Blackley, and I had friends that did it, and I had Dave and my other teacher who I had after Dave, Paul Clarvis. who you might
Good
know.
Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, so Clavis and Dave, they showed me all the Blackley stuff, but I never got to go to Blackley myself. But I've worked out the Syncopated Rules book, and that kind of philosophy of playing is what I base my playing around.
Incredible, right? Far-reaching. I mean, it was like studying with Yoda. I did 2 years with Jim, and it was he looked right into you and so he just knew from your body language or your ability exactly where you were, and he changed my life for sure. I kid you not, the day when I was driving home from my first ever drum lesson with him, I'd been playing a long time at that point, fairly a long time. The phone started to ring for other gigs. It was uncanny. Like,
Wow.
I'm not kidding. Like a jazz gig. I'd never played a jazz gig before, and then another like a small type of a gig. But Fantastic. It was like, this is wild. Yeah, Jim was amazing. His Essence of Jazz Drumming book, I highly recommend that.
Oh yeah, I've got that.
It's great.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, he connected with a lot. There's a whole pool of players here in the UK that have gone through that, and yeah. So
Alan Cox, Alan.
I didn't ever meet him, but I think he produced a play along CD with bass lines at all BPMs, and I have that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and Dave told me about him and how fantastic he was.
Yeah, and Jim used to rave about Paul, and he actually gave me a CD with of him and Sonia, his wife, playing all of these. Oh, it was so incredible. Jim's like, this is real musical playing. This is a guy to listen to, and was it was great. Yeah,
Paul's he's probably my idol, really.
And he's pretty low key. Like, I don't ever hear from him unless
Well, that's because he spends all of his time in recording studios, playing on film soundtracks. He's like the first call in London for all that, and that's he just doesn't have time to do what we're doing now. but he is incredible, and he taught me, and some of my lessons were at his house, sitting behind a kit, dealing with fundamentals. And drumming, but he took me around the studios in London, and I just sat in the corner of the control room and just watched stuff go down, just how people communicate. Right. And actually that probably taught me more than anything in your hands. And Paul took me to his gigs, and we'd sit and hang out and talk about the gigs, and he even decked out some gigs to me, the London Jazz Orchestra, a big band. I used to deck for Paul for that, and he decked out some gigs with Mose Allison to me.
Okay.
And which was like, my goodness, like I was really scared at that Pizza Express, and that was a real learning curve, because it was all about how you play the cymbal, So I remember, and there's no rehearsal, and Mose was playing like 22 songs a set, and there'd be 2 sets. You just roll from one into the other, and I went and watched the gig a few times, and then I remember after the first set thinking, right, okay, I got through the first set, and I thought, I hope Mose was happy, and he just came up to me and said one thing, and he was just like, yeah, you don't need to think about the cymbal so much, because
that's hilarious.
Because I knew that it was such an important thing of the sound of the band, and I guess I was really like focusing in on that. And Mose basically was just like, stop thinking about that too much, and open your ears up. And so then I was like, second set, I went in and I was like listening to everything rather than just a bit, and mainly thinking about this cymbal. And so that was an amazing learning curve. So I've got a lot to thank Dave Hassel and Paul Clavis for. So, and for anyone that doesn't know those guys, check them out, because
man,
fountain of knowledge. And Paul could hit he could hit a fence with his nails and make it sound like music. You know, he's just the most musical percussionist and drummer I've ever met. You know, just
and read anything. You know, I remember Jim Blackley telling me a story about how a composer came in. I can't remember who it was. It was an extremely difficult piece of music in the studio, and he said, "Well, here you go, Mr. Drummer." And Paul read it and beautifully, and he said, then he threw it back at him after he killed it and said, "Next time, will you give me something more difficult?"
All right. I don't know that story, but I mean, I do know that he could probably read anything. Yeah, absolutely. You know, his breadth of musicality is phenomenal. You know, and
learned tabla and became like Jim would just go on about him at our lessons.
Yeah, I mean, he's a percussionist. He can play any percussion instrument, and you know, so that's what he does. But then he also just sits down at his jazz drums and plays amazing jazz and improvising. Yeah, one of my idols, as I say.
That's fabulous. Wow.
Lucky to know him, and you know, we've been texting some records to each another over lockdown. It's great, you know, like Ellington stuff and blues, like old blues records, Howlin' Wolf and Lightning Hopkins and things like that.
That's awesome.
I can't remember, but
that's crazy. My son turns me on to that stuff. He's 21. Howlin' Wolf, he's into all that old stuff. He does not like anything new. If it's past the 70s, no.
Fantastic. No. Well, you know, sometimes I think I'm like that sometimes, but no, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music. But yeah, that's great though. He's into good stuff. Fantastic.
You can tell you listen to an awful, like, just even reading your resume, if people have half a clue as to some of these people are, it's like, well, so the jazz thing is definitely happening, and then there's all this other stuff in between. So you did some lessons when you were in I guess we call it high school over here. So you were doing that, and you're playing in different kinds of musical situations. Were you playing outside of school as well with friends?
Yeah. From like 14, I started. So that tambourine moment would have been when I was about 12. And then I would have started getting lessons when I was 13. And I think by about 14, I was playing in band, you know, like I was like Cayley bands, like that's like a Scottish country dance thing.
Oh, cool.
So, you know, like accordion, violin, snare drum. That was like my first thing. And then I started playing in some pub bands up in Glasgow. So my dad used to drive me, and we'd load the drums into a pub, and then he'd pick me up again at midnight, and I'd be playing with guys who were, you know, but you know, I learned a lot doing that, you know. So yeah, I was out gigging, you know, when I was like 14, 15, and really enjoying it. You know, it kind of, as I say, it just kind of took over that whole period of my life. I didn't do anything else, you know.
That's incredible.
I was earning quite good money for
right.
You know, for a 14, because I didn't have anything to spend my money on. So it was, you know, I was just like, just all going in the back pocket, and but yeah, and then I got into jazz through the guys I was playing with in the pubs, and then I made a few new friends up in Glasgow and got heavy into the jazz thing, and then ended up going down to London when I was 17 to study jazz. Yeah, so you know, I'm a properly schooled, you know, academically, that kind of side of music, you know, that's the way I did it. But I also had a healthy dose of guys shouting at me in a pub, telling me, you know, keep up with this, or like, you know, so I feel lucky like that, and as well as doing all the reading and academic side of stuff.
That's the best combination, you know, to get out and you play. So many musicians will go to school, but they don't gig, especially in the last couple of years. Where are you going to play? Yeah. You're not going to play anywhere. And a lot of the places they don't really have bands. What was the scene like in Glasgow then? What kind of bands would be in a pub?
Well, all kinds of things, from like covers to acoustic jazz to kind of fusion.
Wow.
I went through my fusion days as a teenager. Weckel
Yep.
and Vinny,
Yep.
and I was right into that. So yeah, I met some guys that were. It probably didn't sound the way it did in my head, but I was trying to be like that. At that time, had a splash cymbal and pinstripes.
Me and you
And
both.
so yeah, but it was mainly jazz and the Scottish country dance band stuff I did, and then like big bands, that kind of side of things, rather than rock and roll at that point. As I say, I was really into jazz as a teenager, and so from like maybe 16 through to 24, I was playing jazz solely, kind of
That's
thing.
incredible. That's incredible. Do you recommend that drummers who don't necessarily listen to jazz, would you suggest to them that they learn how to play, learn some of the songs, learn the idiom?
I've got no idea about giving advice. I mean, really, everyone can, if it feels right to someone to get into that and they enjoy it, then absolutely. For me, it was just like I just connected with that music, like hearing Miles Davis, Elvin with Coltrane, and then just really enjoying. Oh, Chick Corea's on keyboards on that. Well, and then you're like, oh my god! Then you discover all this stuff with Gad and
Right.
that kind of. I just really connected with that kind of thing. I know loads of musicians and people that I work with now who haven't gone through the jazz thing, and they're a fantastic musician. So I don't think you have to. You definitely don't have to do it. So it just depends on. You have to connect with what you're into.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you get into the jazz thing, it's absolutely wonderful. I love it, and it certainly can serve you well playing a lot of different other musics. Well, it has for me anyway. But it's not for everyone. You know what I mean? I know a lot of people that hate jazz.
Yeah, my wife is one of those in here in the drum room I've got.
Yeah, my wife doesn't mind it, but she wouldn't thank me sometimes for it.
Who were your drum idols when you were growing up or when you were developing?
When I was growing up, as I say, I went through my fusion phase, but then came out of that. Then, as all the great jazz drummers, Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, then more. People more of the current time. I was into Brian Blade from, late. That would have been early noughties kind of time. Joey Barron, Jim Black, Clavis. Just soaking it all up, really. Bonham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all kinds of things, but predominantly those jazz guys like Tony Williams and Elvin Jones.
Yeah, pretty good drummers. Left a massive mark, right?
I still love listening to all that, and I never really got into Max Roach at that time in my jazz crazy days, and now I'm listening to Max Roach, and just loving it. The Ellington record with Money Jungle, Money or Monkey, I can't remember, but that record just amazing. So Philly Joe Jones I listen to a lot. That kind of. But the main thing was that Tony Williams playing on the 4 and More Funny Valentine Miles Davis record.
Yeah. I have that too. That's crazy.
Just all the past, but all the future. It just absolutely blew my head off.
Yeah.
Han Benink, into Han Benink a lot.
Okay.
Kind of free jazz I got into, you know. So yeah, all kinds of stuff.
Had you heard or played Gretsch drums up until, were they around in Scotland at all that you had seen?
I knew of them, but you know, I didn't encounter them at all until I moved to London, and then I probably came across them somewhere, but someone playing them. But no, I was just aware that they were great, and I knew that some of my favourite players were playing them, like Philly Joe and Mel Lewis. But actually, I mean, on the other Gretsch interview that I did,
oh right,
with the Generations one with
yes.
Mike Spearman, they asked you what's your first Gretsch drum, and I wasn't able to show them and answer it, so I looked it out. Neil, look.
Oh wow! Oh my!
So this was my first. Oh sorry, this was my first introduction to Gretsch drums, and it was when I moved to London. You know, I was like, oh, I need to get like a nice snare. I didn't really have a nice snare, and there was this great shop on Denmark Street. It was Andy's drum store. So I went in there and I played all the snares, and this one was my favorite. And it was also the most expensive, I think, but I absolutely loved it. I said to my pal, I was like, I love this drum, but it's expensive. And he was just like, oh, just buy it. You won't regret it. And I've still got it. So it's actually a 1930s.
30s.
I think it's from 1936, yeah. And it's
wow.
It's got the wood chopper hoops. See that? They carve your sticks up. But it's got a really light tone to it, and I don't really use it that much, but I did at that time. And so, in answer to your question, that was my introduction to Gretsch drums. I think, well, that was the first Gretsch drum I owned, and then over the years I've had quite a few, but not as many as other manufacturers, which we won't mention. But I had an 80s Gretsch kit at one point, but I didn't get on with that. It was a great drum kit, but it had some modifications done to it and all that. And
yeah,
I've learned from mistakes that I don't go there now. I don't do that. You know, where the floor tom's been sawn in half and what, you know. But back then I was like, oh man, I want to try this Gretsch 80s thing. You know, kind of like a Vinny type thing. And I did, but it just wasn't. I just didn't enjoy it, and it sounded great, but it just wasn't for me. So yeah, I've owned many drums over the years. I own a lot of drums, but yeah, these I'm sure we'll get onto it later. But the current Gretsch drums that are being made that I have, I'm honestly over the moon with them, and I'm not just saying that because we're here for Gretsch. It's I absolutely love them. You know,
that's your is that a broadcaster kit behind you?
It is. It's
oh baby.
Yeah. Well, oh God, sorry. Yeah, there you are. I've got a broadcaster kit, and I just got that 18-inch bass drum, so that I can get back into my jazz. So I enjoy sitting on that, and so yeah, it's an 18, 12, 14 over there, and I just bought. I got the that's a USA snare, Woods 5 with USA, and I am loving that. Yeah. And I've got the wee the old school strainer on it, which is great. Love it.
The microsensitive strainer?
Well, I don't know what it's called. It's like
got like a baseball bat arm in it, or is it the lightning throw?
It's not the lightning throw that comes as standard. It's like the vintage
so the microsensitive then.
Yeah, so it's the only one I've got. I mean, I've got a lot of the Gretsch snares now. I've almost probably got all of them. Each.
Good. Yes.
But no, I don't have all of them. I don't have nearly all of them, but I have got a lot of them. And they've all got the other one. This one's got this. I got it vintage, and it's, oh man, I love this strainer. It's cool.
It is really cool. I have that on a USA custom bronze that I bought, a 6.5 by 14. My first endorsement drum, and man, that drum is just awesome. And I had an old chrome over brass drum that had the old micro throw, and it was old and tired, but man, it's really cool looking, and you press the button on that, and it's such a cool looking and beautiful design too, man.
Yeah, anyway,
Well, that's great. What is the difference between the broadcasters and the USA Customs to your ears? What is different about those?
I just think that the USA's have got a bit more bite, bit more attack, maybe a bit louder. That sounds weird to say, but I don't know, just a bit more bite to them, a bit more. Whereas the broadcasters really just blend. I mean, I like them. They're good for me, So yeah, I've really enjoyed playing them.
I keep hearing of broadcaster. This is the year, all goes well, that I'm going to order a kit, I don't. USA Custom or Broadcaster, and been chatting with a few other artists, and they're like, "Oh man, you need to go USA." Some of them are like, "No, never mind, just get a Broadcaster kit." So I think you pushed me to the Broadcaster side right now.
Hard decision.
Yes, it's a tough decision, right?
Can't go wrong with either of them, really. But
right,
I don't think you'd be disappointed with either. Put it that way.
I think your old snare drum, that might have been known as a Broadcaster model.
Yeah, there's a whole. It probably was. Yeah, I'm really. Yeah, someone's just said that's a broadcaster. I think it is. Yeah, I think it would have been called a Broadcaster. There's a whole. The history of it is. I'm not very good with all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I mean, someone will know. Someone's just said it's a Broadcaster. I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. Probably. Anyways, and I really enjoy the Lucas von Gretsch's his series, all about the history of the Gretsch family, and those videos and interviews and chats with the different artists and experts. And great seeing Paul Cooper on there. Great seeing Ash Sohn on one of those episodes and whatnot. But man,
he's done a lot. I don't know Lucas, but he's done loads, and I've watched him as well. I love all this kind of stuff. So thank you for for your service.
My pleasure. It's been so fun, so much fun. I'm glad we can. Drummers are a great lot like that, right? We definitely have a sense of community, unlike other instruments. Some people over here say that we're kind of like the hockey goalies of the band.
Okay,
and perhaps, or I don't know if that equates to football goalies, but because we're kind of by ourselves, but we're a real team player, and if it's not for us, the band.
I think that's a fair comparison. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your travels to London. You went there initially to go to school, correct?
Yeah, that's why I moved there, and then I didn't leave. 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that's why I went to London, and then I was there for 20 years. Yeah.
So you just ended up staying because you could find work, right?
Yeah, I think so, and that's there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of great musicians there. So you aspire to play with them, and that makes you better, playing with people that are better than you, and and there was work there, and so I stayed there for that kind of reason.
How did you parlay your school and turn that into making a profession out of it? I know that was your aim, but did you have someone that said, "Man, John he's a great drummer, a great guy. Let's give him a shot"? How did the connections into the real world of playing? How did that happen?
Well, I was, as I say, I was working quite a lot anyway. during school, and at points that got pretty hairy. Do you know what I mean? Like doing professional engagements whilst also trying to hold down your exams and classes.
Wow.
So yeah, that got pretty tricky at points. You know, I was working with some people based in Scotland, like at that point, the Scottish National Jazz Orchestra, and a chap called Tommy Smith. So he's quite a kind of well-known saxophone player in the UK, and he was booking me in his band. So we started touring. We went to like Russia, Finland, Latvia, Estonia. We're doing like saxophone concertos with orchestras and playing in the big band, and you know, gigging around and getting proper experience. And other people. I was working with a Scottish pop band called Hue and Cry, who were pretty big in the late 80s, I think. You know, number ones and stuff like that.
Wow.
And so they started. That was maybe my first foray into playing songs as a,
right.
You know, since playing as a teenager. That, you know, so Hue and Cry I toured with them. Not extensively, but for like a year and a half, 2 years, you know, I did all their gigs. So I was trying to juggle that with being at college. And then also in London, I was gigging about. And I think, you know, I think that'd be the case for guys at college now, you know. You don't just go to college and sit in college. You're there to go and play. And, you know, my teachers were telling me, get out and play, you know, because that's really where you learn. So I was getting out and playing and doing everything I could, you know. And at that time, I didn't drive. So I had this little drum kit that the boys in Glasgow made me that fitted on my back, and a suitcase with the hardware in it. And I just was getting around London on night buses and tubes and all sorts. And I actually did my back in, and I almost slipped a disc in my back, which was very painful, and took a little bit of time to get that sorted out. And I did 4 years of that, like carrying drums around every day around London and just schlepping about, you know, for the music.
What was this drum kit then? Now I'm curious. I'm trying to picture it.
Literally, absolutely shocking. You know, a piece of wood as a bass drum with one skin on it, and then a tom that was like 11.25 inches that had a goat head, that only one head, and that was maybe an Olympic. And then that went in the kick drum, and then I had a 12-inch snare, again pre-international size, that had a plastic head, and that went in, but it was all very light. And then stool went in on that, hardware all in a suitcase, as I say, with the cymbals in it. And I just played. I didn't take a stool. I'd just get a stool at the gig, and that was great for like playing jazz gigs. But then you couldn't really do anything else on it. But I tried, and the kick drum was over there by about 8 bars. You know, it didn't have proper spurs, so I'd have to, you know. But I that's the thing. At that point, I didn't, and still, I don't really care about gear. Really, I mean, that sounds weird to say that because I own so much drums now. But I mean, it's really the important thing is the music rather than the drums. But at that time, that was my whole philosophy. So I did not care about the gear, and my gear was a laughing stock. You know, literally falling apart. But I kind of took that from Paul Clavis because he had a little kit similar like that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
He's had some strange contraptions of drum kits from what I've seen in pictures. And
I know, but I mean, I love that. It's character, isn't it? Like, and you know, some of my favorite music is like just you know, it's just beat up. You know, it's or it's just funky. It's got character. You know.
Jim said, "There's no excuse." There's no excuse. It says
right.
in
you know, that's it. Really, it's all in. You know, it's all in your mind and your hands and what you play rather than the gear. You know, for me.
And it's true. You'll hear, you know, Steve Gadd sit down and play, his drum kit, and it sounds beautiful. Remember when Neil Peart talked about that when they were doing the Burning for Buddy? He walked over and played Steve's drums. He said they sounded horrible when he was tapping them, and Steve sat down and they were like a symphony. Right, they're beautiful.
Fascinating.
But it's even better to have some great drums to play on that you know are going to get better with age, that they look great, they sound great, and they have such an incredible family legacy behind them. So, but that's who are some of the artists, the first name artists that you ended up playing with, John?
Well, Hue and Cry probably, and then I don't know, man. It's just been a bit of a blur. Been a bit of a blur, really.
What about some of the lists that we spoke about playing? I mean, you mentioned Seal. How did the Seal? I mean, that's a very
well. I've been working with playing with Seal now for about 6 years, off and on, and that just came about. Well, about 5-6 years ago, whenever it was at Christmas time, and a friend got in touch and said, "What you doing January, February?" And I said, "I've got nothing on." You know, it was perfect. And he said, "Okay, well, it could be a tour with Seal." So I was like, "Wow, okay, that all right." And it was off and on, off and on. It was, you know, and then it was on. So
yeah,
I was in rehearsals. It's like, right, this is happening. So we did a UK tour, and a little bit in Europe. And that was Seal had just brought out this album that was like a kind of Sinatra-esque thing. He'd done it with a big band in LA, and so the tour was to promote that and also play his hits. So so it was great musically because I could get to flex my big band muscles and then jump into playing Kiss from a Rose and Killer and Crazy and everything, and just really good fun and a great band, and he was great. And then we did a bit in Europe, and then it was going to America, and I was asked, you know, that was what, but I had to say no because I just started playing with Robert Plant, so I had to say no to Seal for that, and then over the that was like the next 3 years, and then I did do some gigs with Seal in between playing with Robert, kind of one-offs, which I was kind of well, just that was really nice to be getting asked back, and then recently we've been doing. You know, there's been a few shows with Seal, and it's looking like there might be a few more in the next couple of months. And you know, I don't know. He likes what I do. He must like what I do, and I'm happy to be there. It's a really nice gig, and the guys in the band are great. It's also really nice to play with Americans. Because the rest of the band is American, so it's just I enjoy playing with musicians from different countries because it's a different. There's a different vibe to the UK thing, and I just like that because it's different. And like a couple of the guys that are playing with Robert now, they're. Seal now. It's they're all, you know, based out of Philly.
Oh wow!
The gig we just did, a guy from Atlanta and Philly, and they all grew up playing in the church. And there's when they play, it's just this kind of, it's just telepathy. And I'm just like a wee Scottish guy in a sandwich, and I'm just so happy. You know,
wow! What an awesome experience. You know, I can imagine how. All right, just as a quick, and I don't know if I've asked anybody really this, and I've interviewed, you know, Steve Ferroni and chatted with Mark Schulman. How I
Steve
know
Ferroni.
that it is, yeah, no kidding.
Steve Ferroni, jeez. I mean, the Average White Band are the funkiest guys to come out of Scotland. hands down. And God, cut the cake. You know, Steve Ferroni is some player. Wow.
Yep. I will text him every now and again and say, well, I just found out it was you on another one of my favorite tracks.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it was me and Nathan East, and we were
yeah.
having a ball. I'm like,
man,
yeah, what a sweet time. So how does, if someone is young musician said, man, I want to play at a higher level, I want to play with a touring act. How does that happen? Is it relationships that you built along the way? And then all of a sudden they know you're a good player, know you're a good person, that you're going to get the call for something like that?
I think so. I mean, as I said before, I think everyone's got a different story with this kind of stuff. But I would say, for me, and I've heard a lot of other people say similar stuff, it's like, you never know what's going to happen. So I just try and whoever I'm playing with, wherever I'm playing, I give it my all. You know, I put in the same. I honor it. You know, like I learn this stuff. I try and be as good as I can be, and for the music. And it goes without saying, you know, just don't be a dick, and you know, and turn up on time. Those two things that everyone always says, it's very important. But yeah, if you have an attitude of like giving it your all for whatever you're doing, then you're going to get recommended for another band, or someone's going to like what you do. And if you love what you do and are always trying to improve and check out new things and grow as a musician, that will just feed into your music and people will want to play with you. So that's it kind of for me. And it doesn't really matter what the gig is or what level you're at. That's how it works.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We had another comment about Robert Plant being a legend. Of course, he's a legend. Can you talk a bit about your time with Robert, what that has been like?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, where to start, really? Robert is a legend. That chap was totally right. And yeah, so I spent 3 years, about 3 years touring with Robert, and mainly in the States. So came to Toronto. I can't remember where, but I'll message you. I'll look it up and I'll tell you where we came to. But definitely came to Toronto in Canada, and toured around America like 3 or 4 times. So I'd never toured America. I'd been to New York to play. I'd been to LA to play. I'd been to Seattle, and I've been to LA and New York quite a lot, you know. And then I had always wanted to tour America, obviously. But then I never thought I would do it with Robert and the way that we did it. You know, it was like, but you know, as I said, you never know what's going to happen. And yeah, off we went. So the first tour was like all the big cities: New York, Chicago, you know, blah blah blah, and Seattle, places, you know, all the big places. And then the next one was like along the south, and then that all kind of, and then along the north. And because Robert's been 50 years in the game, and obviously, you know, toured America quite a lot. He had such interest in places that he'd want to go and play. Really? You know, I remember playing at the Surf Ballroom. Can't remember where it is, but it's the last place that Buddy Holly played.
Oh wow, you're kidding? Okay.
So he took off that night and he's playing and passed away. But we played on that stage in the Surf Ballroom, and you know, we played at places like that. I don't know, this is maybe I'll just try and remember some stuff. But I remember playing in New York at Forest Hills Stadium, which is quite a big venue. Anyway, it's where the US Open tennis used to be. It's now a concert venue, and they've still got training matches around the stadium. You know, so I loved playing there, but. Yeah, Sheryl Crow was supporting on that run. So
Wow.
the great Fred Eltringham was playing drums. So
Yeah.
I had brilliant time hanging out with Fred for a little bit. And anyway, John McEnroe was at the gig, right? So, and he was hanging out. You know, John McEnroe was hanging out. So after he was there at soundcheck, and I came back, and Robert was like, John, hey, John. And I was like,
that's nuts.
I was like, bloody hell, it's John McEnroe. So I got chatting to John McEnroe, and Robert was like, this is the new drummer. He takes no shit. And John was like, oh, I take no shit either. And I was like, all right. So then we got chat, and I was like, so I was like, you must have played tennis here. And he said, yeah, I grew up over there, a few streets away, and I started playing tennis on those courts.
That's awesome.
And it was amazing. And then, like, on that tour, 2 weeks later, we played in Pasadena. And McEnroe was back. He'd come out. He'd flown out to watch the gig again. So, I mean, I don't know. You asked me about experiences of playing with Robert. I mean, things like that happened a lot. Dave Grohl was knocking about at one bit. I mean, but aside from all that kind of stuff, just being on the stage with him was just fantastic. And you know, and we got into playing quite a lot of old Zeppelin tunes over the years. He would just call them. You know, there was like, yeah, there was like a few that were. I mean, because I should state, you know, that the band that I'm in with Robert is the Sensational Space Shifters, and
yes,
it's not like some people might think, oh, John, you play with Robert Plant, that's got to be like a kind of version of Zeppelin tunes, and it's like a kind of, but that's not what we do. I mean, there's other people out there doing that of an ilk like that, and it's like a kind of like almost like a covers band or something, but that's not what we do. We maybe pick a song and then reimagine it, you know. So
cool.
And the arrangement would change as days go on and stuff. And but you know, as I got to play a lot of those songs, and with him kind of wailing and turning round, and it was great, you know, if he was enjoying something particularly that you were doing, and just that grin of that kind of look of enjoyment, that when that was beamed across his face, and then, you know, he would respond with something on the vocals, and it'd be like, oh my God. And then that would inspire me. And that's what music's about. And the whole band's locking in like that, you know. So it really was a fantastic experience. And I do remember the last gig we played was in San Francisco, which is a place that I really grew to like by going there. But we played it in the park, the Golden Gate Park, which is the famous kind of place where all the festivals went on. And we played, and we finished the set with Ramble On, which at that time we were playing a lot, because I think Robert hadn't been able to play that with anyone the way we played it because of the the pitter patter that Bonham did, you know, which was done on, I don't know what it was done on, but it would have been some weird little sound. But I found a way of doing that on my second snare with a towel, with the snares off, and then I could flick the snares on in the main snare, and then get in, and then off, and then back to it, and so it became in the set. And
wow,
I just remember that at the end of the song, you went round it, and then Robert would sing Ramble On a few times as a cue to finish. And the last note that he sang on that, it's on YouTube actually. I was thinking about posting it at some point, but that note, he just went for it. And I almost felt like I was going to shoot out my drum stool like a rocket. And like, I remember turning around to Billy, the bass player, and it was just like, what was that? You know, like what just happened there?
Oh, we've got to see that. You've got to post that.
It's on you. I mean, you know, it's very specific, you know, but you know, most things that we did were put on YouTube somewhere. But yeah, you know, it was great, and we did I remember doing a thing. Yeah, just like being a part of that legacy of music in a very small way is great. Oh, hi, Ian. That's an old mate from back home. But
to hear that voice in your ears would have been just unbelievable.
We don't use in-ears, we use wedges.
To hear that voice in your wedge.
Yeah, no. So
wow. Really? You don't use ears at all? You're not allowed to, or?
No, you'd be allowed to if you wanted, but
you just don't want to?
No, because no. I mean, the other people, the other guys in the band, no one was using ears, so it'd be a bit weird if you did. And there was no need to use ears. There's no click tracks. There was nothing. So
you still have your hearing, obviously. Then.
Well, just about. That was a big shock because with Seal, which I was doing before joining Robert's band, it was ears, and I got used to that, and I kind of liked it. It was meant my hearing would be better. And then bloody hell, going into the, you know, starting with Robert, it was like, God, this is loud. But then I got really used to that, and now I hate the in-ears.
Crazy.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a different feeling. You've got the air. You can get the sensophonics. That apparently are they have. They're in-ears, but they have microphones on each side, and you can dial in however much ambience you want in the room. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I've tried stuff similar to that, but just nothing substitutes for just acoustically hearing the drums for me. But having said that, on loud gigs, I'm a fan. You know, because you can save your hearing. But with Robert, no, it was old school.
Incredible. Let's go down a little bit of the list here. Next I have on here is Goldie. Who is Goldie? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, maybe people in the States. But although I have met a lot of people in the States who are like, holy shit, you played with Goldie. That's absolutely insane. And like, you know, drum and bass and jungle music from the 90s, in the mid-90s, which Goldie basically created.
Cool.
With a few other heavies, was a thing, you know, in New York. And there's a whole scene of guys like who know about that. Like there's a chap that I met on tour called Guy Licata, and he actually made and invented the Reflex Practice Pad.
Okay. Yeah.
So Guy gave me one of those back in the day, a few years ago now, and fantastic wee pad. But Guy is a massive jungle drum and bass fan, so like he was like super interested in meeting up with me and talking about Goldie and stuff. And then he was talking about like the 90s in New York with Jojo Mayer kind of growing up. Anyway, I'm sidetracking. Goldie kind of invented drum and bass, amongst other things. He does art, and he did graffiti and made gold teeth, and he's an actor as well. He's a villain in a Bond film. He's a larger than life character who is absolutely great crack, and just that music is all about the drums, you know, hence the name. I mean, you know, all the old breaks from, you know, soul breaks and things from the like James Brown stuff, and you know how it, you know, so you know, made out of that, produced and so yeah, we were kind of recreating that on his tunes, and doing it as a live band. And then also, so we did some shows like that, playing his record Timeless, which is a great title because it is timeless. And that went really well. And then he just, me and my friend, the other drummer, Adam Betts, who's a monster if you've not heard of him. He's great. Me and Adam just tore the arse out of it basically with Goldie and you know we're still doing it. You know, hopefully going to have a gig in April at Ronnie Scott's. That's being talked about at the moment. And when we've played there before, it's like, you know, Ronnie Scott's is a building in Soho, but when we play there, it feels like it's a ship at sea. It honestly feels, yeah. I mean, that we really go in on it, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. And Goldie's a mate to this day. I just saw him actually because I was in Thailand over Christmas and New Year, and he lives there. So I just saw him, and he's still doing his thing. Top man.
That's crazy, man. I'm looking at the list here, and it's just then the next on my list is Jamie Cullum, and I had Brad Webb on here a few months back, and Brad is what an awesome guy and a fabulous musician.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was depping for Brad at that time. That's why I was playing with Jamie. I had a depping in the US is subs, isn't it?
Subbing out.
I was subbing out for Brad. So yes, that's what happened there. So I did a summer basically with Jamie, but I'd also recorded with him on a song with my friend Tom Richards, who's basically Jamie's MD. So he put out a solo album ages ago that Jamie sung on one song. So that's that. I haven't seen Jamie for quite a while, but that whole period of playing with him over that summer was absolutely brilliant fun. He's a great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. What an entertainer. Incredible. I love diving into all of these different artists that I wouldn't have otherwise, just so I have an idea.
Sure.
Anybody else? Now I see Michael Bolton is on the list.
I mean, you've done your homework here, and feel free to shoot away questions. But I mean, yes, Michael Bolton. That was one gig in London for Samuel L. Jackson's charity. So it was like a charity event, but you know they were there, and it was like a big band gig with
cool.
So the BBC big band and Michael Bolton's rhythm section, but for some reason the drummer wasn't there. But anyway, that was I remember that. I mean, that was fun. And then the MD guy, American chap from LA, he asked me back to do a gig in Greece in Athens with him. I think, and I remember that was the first time. I mean, smooth jazz. It's not my favorite genre, put it that way. But the guys in Michael Bolton's band were smooth jazz heavyweights, like probably quite famous in the smooth jazz world. And I just remember this guy just wanting it laid down on the kick and snare, you know, like no messing. And I like that, you know. That's what I practiced for a very long time, you know. I'm still to this day, I'm not like a chopsy player. Try and play the music, but that's what I remember from the Michael Bolton gig.
That's awesome.
As well as the piano player was Jim Watson, who's a great pianist based in London, but he couldn't do the rehearsal the day before, so he had a sub doing the rehearsal, and then Jim was going to come and do the gig, and Michael Bolton got wind of this. After we did the rehearsal with Jim's sub, and Michael Bolton got wind of this, and he was like, "What? That piano player isn't going to be there tomorrow. What's that about?" So he flew his guy from America at like that. So I got to the gig the next day and arrived, and there was a guy at the piano who'd been playing with Michael Bolton for like 20 years. I knew all the tunes inside out, and he was sat there practicing the tunes. And I was like, wow, that was my first kind of, I don't know, it's my first time seeing anything like that, you know,
That's
like
wild.
kind of like a big star kind of doing his thing, you know. There's some
Mr. Ross Crabe.
I don't know Ross.
Oh, plays
Fellow
with
Glaswegian, though. So
Dodie. Yeah, we had Ross on a few months ago. What an absolute beautiful guy.
I hope to meet him one day.
Yes. Give him here. I'll send you his phone number. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's incredible. It's amazing what happens at the higher echelon kind of gigs or what happens. You know, people will be flown in from different parts of the world at a moment's notice.
Well, me and my wife were just in Thailand on holiday, and then Seal gave me a shout saying, "Can you do a gig in the Maldives in 2 days?" And I was like, "Well, I'm on holiday in Thailand," but I was like, "It's not actually that far." And then because it was like a private gig for an oligarch, so it wasn't an issue.
So does Seal phone you? Does he actually phone you?
No, he didn't. He actually texted me for this gig, yeah. Which has never happened before. It's normally like through management and stuff.
Come on.
But like the other day, yeah, he texted me about it, and because he texted me now, yeah, like because the gig that we did in Russia was that last year. My sense of what month it is completely gone out the window since this COVID.
I know, right?
Anyway, the gig in Russia, I kind of put the band together for it. Because it had to be UK-based guys because the Americans couldn't get over because of COVID. So anyway, I put him a nice band together, and he was very appreciative. And after that, he gave me a FaceTime, and he was, yeah, man, Seal's great. You know, sound is a pound. I've been very lucky to all these people that you're reeling off. They're all lovely. Do you know what I mean? That's I've been very lucky. I don't have any stories about, oh my God, he was an arse, you know, or she was an arse. No, it's all been fun.
Oh, that's incredible. I have Ellie Goulding on my list here.
Well, I don't know. That a lot of these things are just like one, like the Michael Bolton thing was like 2 gigs. You know, Ellie Goulding was like 2 TV shows with Joe Clegg, who's another Gretsch guy. He gave me a call to play like second drums, basically, on the Jules Holland show. So it was that, and then maybe Jonathan Ross. I can't actually remember, but like a few TV shows.
So cool.
And I remember Ellie Goulding was wearing tartan trousers, and I remember saying, "Nice trousers, Ellie." And that's all that was.
My face is hurting from all of these great stories, and I'm smiling. This is awesome.
Oh God, I'm waiting to see what's next.
Well, we have Ghost Poet.
Oba, yeah. I mean, I was in his band for 5 years. Great music, great guy. Love his outlook on music, and we just toured around UK and Europe for a while. Recorded an album that we're very proud of, and Oba's a great friend to this day. Yeah, fantastic musician. Didn't ever make it to the States, unfortunately. But I think maybe he will one day. But you know, yeah, just great music, like absolutely uncategorizable music, you know, which I like. I like the fact a little bit of everything, and he puts it all in the pot, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Paulo Nutini. What how did that happen, and what kind of experiences did you have in that band? Paulo,
I'm sure some people in America and Canada will know of Paulo, but we've not. Yes, so Paulo is a great Scottish singer. If people don't know, I mean, they probably, I don't know. But yeah, Paulo's fantastic. I met him, did a gig in 2015, and that goes back to the Jamie Cullum time. I was depping kind of for that, and then Paulo asked me to stay, and I've been doing gigs with him since then. you know, and but there hasn't been that many gigs, if you know what I mean. I mean, we went to South America, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, all of that. That was great crack, you know. A few Scottish guys knocking about down in Argentina, eating great steak and drinking red wine and playing some gigs, you know, and then yeah, you know, did a bunch of stuff with them from 2015 to 2017, live stuff, and then since then, I have been recording with them off and on over the last 3-4 years. Spent like I spent 5 weeks or something with him in Belgium at a great studio called ICP, which I then found myself in again about 2 months later with Mika, he's another big pop star like Grace Kelly and stuff. So I recorded Mika's last album at that studio, and so that year, whatever year it was, I can't remember. I spent like 2 months in Belgium at this studio, which was kind of bizarre, but anyway. And then with Paulo, I've gone to Ireland for a few weeks. Great story about that was he said, "Oh, shall we take Sunday off? You know, have a day off." It's like, aye, you know, and he's like, I can get us tickets to go and see Bob Dylan and Neil Young because they were playing at down in Kilkenny in the middle of Ireland. So actually, I'd just been on tour with Robert, and at the end of in Scandinavia, and the last gig with Robert was at Roskilde Festival, and Dylan was playing the night before. So Robert was on the whole band. We were going down to watch Dylan. Robert was hanging out with Dylan as you do, but I didn't go down to the gig because my wife was in town and I'd been on tour, and I was going to Ireland for 2.5 weeks with Paulo.
Yeah.
So I went out for a big dinner with the wife, and I got a load of stick the next morning at breakfast. You know, Robert and everyone. Why didn't you come to Dylan? Like, what? You missed. And I said, look, you know. And then anyway, I'm in Ireland with Paulo. This comes about, and so everyone was like, yeah, let's go and watch the gig. And so then it was a case of, well, so the studio owner wanted to come, all the girls that work at the studio wanted to come. So there's about 15 of us wanting to go and watch this Dylan Neil Young double bill. Mm-hmm. So we're all like, if we just chip in, everyone chips in, we'll get a minibus because it's like a 2-hour drive, right?
Yeah.
And owner of the studio, Paddy, says, "Oh, no need to do that." He basically owns the Waxwork Museum up in Dublin, right? This guy, which is like Madame Tussauds, but the Irish version. And in it, he's got the 1979 Popemobile that went round.
Oh no!
Right? So this guy Paddy's like, you don't need to hire a minibus. Let's just go in the Popemobile. We'll all fit. And we're like, you're kidding me. And so anyway, that was the plan. And then Paulo said to me like the day before, he's like, man, I'm really not sure about this. You know, I'm trying to keep a low profile. Like Paulo tries to stay out of the limelight, out of the press and everything like that. So turning up to a gig in a bright yellow Popemobile in Ireland is maybe not the way to kind of stay out the papers. Anyway, we did it. And off we went. We went and watched this gig. We rocked up. And then funny thing, so I text Robert and all those guys. I said, look, I saw Dylan, you know, and I went in the Popemobile. And then Robert was texting back saying he was on tour in Ireland the next month with his band Saving Grace, which is a band he's got with his mates from where he lives in Black Country. And he said, can you put me in touch with these guys? I want to see that Popemobile. So I did. And so Paddy and Claire, I said, look, there's going to be someone coming to the studio on Tuesday or whatever for a look about. And trust me. And then, so Robert turned up, and then Claire texted me back. You know, she's the owner of the studio, and she was just like, this place is called Grouse Lodge, by the way. You should check it out. It's where Michael Jackson spent 9 months recording.
Okay.
It's got a lot of history there. It's where Michael Jackson kind of retreated. And my mate Danny Castellar, who's Paulo's producer, was like the assistant at Grouse Lodge when Michael Jackson was recording there. So Danny's got great stories about working with Michael Jackson, picking him up in a Nissan Micra, you know, at 2 a.m, and Michael's coming down with a wee Casio keyboard, being like, and then he's like, have you got any drums, Danny? And Danny's like, I got drums, setting them up. Michael Jackson's apparently a killer drummer. So anyway, I've gone off subject a wee bit, but working with Paulo,
unbelievable.
It's cracking, and hopefully this album that we've been working on should see the light of day sometime soon.
Oh my God, we could be here another hour talking stories. That's one of the beautiful things about when you play with artists and you get to tour and you get to travel. There's always something that happens, you know. You just can't explain it to people, and you just kind of have to be there, you know. But that's unbelievable. Oh, are we frozen? Are you there, John? Hold on one sec. We have some signal. Hey, we've been pretty lucky, an hour and 20, and it's been good. Oh, here we go. He'll be back. Man, this is unbelievable. Hope everybody is enjoying. Yeah, this is crazy. Hi, Gil. Hi, Daniel. Hey, Reed. How are you? Nice to see everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This has been incredible so far, and we haven't really got to the Gretsch artists yet, but we certainly will get to the whole Gretsch affiliation, and perhaps I'm trying to find John here. I truly hope that we're not done here. If we are done here, we can certainly come back another time and finish the other half of the chat. This has been absolutely wonderful, and such a thrill for me, and great to hear these stories, especially in this time, crazy time of really not much going on, but hopefully looking like people are going to get back to playing, and that would be unbelievable. Yeah, I do not see. I'm just going to message John here. Sorry, folks. I'm just going to message him here. And I appreciate the great questions, and appreciate as many folks tuning in. The Pope Mobile. That is unbelievable. What a thrill to be able to hear from someone who plays with such a diverse group of artists. And I know just from the playing that I do in different parts of the world, it's there's so much that happens every day, and you just can't explain it to other people, and you kind of need to be there. Does anybody have anything that they would like to comment, anything that they would like to ask John? So if we don't end up connecting on here again, we can add it to the list of questions and things for our next little chat that we have. And stay tuned next week. In fact, we've got a couple more terrific guests coming up in the next few weeks. And it's been fun getting back in the saddle and doing this again and chatting with everybody and learning all about people's journeys and things like that. Oh, I wonder if his, yeah, we definitely will, Rich. If he comes to the GTA, we'll go to Toronto. I'm wondering if John had trouble with his internet, and I wonder if that is kind of the case, which is super possible. But anyway, Just trying to think. We were going to talk about John's own studio, his affiliation with Gretsch, how long he has been an artist, and kind of what lies ahead. But we definitely covered a whole lot. And man, I thanks so much, Ross, for tuning in, and Daniel, Gil, Reed, Rich, Adrian. Thank you so much for tuning in and for support. This has been a lot of fun. So I am going to sign off because I don't think we're going to get back in time. So thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next week for episode number 70. Take care.